Hello all. Last Friday we started section 1, chapter P, and we left off on page 2 when we got to explain why the following questions are not variables. I hope you were able to finish the handout and have done the reading assignment and have continued doing the reading assignment for P2 and the handout for P2. Hopefully you've watched the videos on Wiley Plus as well. I want to finish right now the section 1 handout. And if you recall, we had done talking about why some of the questions were not variables. And we talked about what would observational units have to be in order for the questions in part B above to be legitimate variables. So you can reference your handout from Friday. And for 1A, we thought the observation units will be entire classes of students for the average to be considered a variable. And for this one, explain why the following questions are not variables. Have women at ARC read more Harry Potter books on average than men? And we said that is a research question based on data collected, so it is not a variable. And same thing for the last one. Is the proportion of ARC students with a Facebook account smaller than the proportion of Sac State students with a Facebook account? Again, this is a research question, and research questions are not variables. And this is where we left off in class. Some definitions. Population is the entire group of observational units, and a sample, typically small, is part of the population from which data is gathered. And the sample size is the number of observational units in the sample. So I talked about how you guys, my students in Stat 300, will be a sample, and we can extend that to be a population of either ARC students, a population of college students. From our sample, we can really just expand to a much, much larger grouping, which is the population. These were the ones to do on your own. So example 3, for each of the following statistical studies, identify the observational units and variables and classify each variable as quantitative or categorical, and whether, if it is categorical, is it binary or not. Recall, binary means you only have two values. So part A, how much did an average American consumer spend on Christmas presents in 2014? So you got to think about what are the observational units and then what are the variables. The observational units are usually people, animals, or things. I often like to think of who is providing the information or from what are we gathering data. So in this case, we're gathering data from the American consumer. So the American consumer will be the observational unit. And our variable, what is the variable? Notice the question again, how much did an average American consumer spend on Christmas presents in 2014? So the variable will then be the amount of money spent on Christmas presents in 2014. And it is quantitative because it's the amount of money spent. So that is a measurable amount. For part B, is the price of a house related to its size? In this case, identify and classify two variables. So what are the observational units? So again, think about what or from who or from what are you gathering data? And you're getting the price and you're getting the size of what? A house. So those will be our observational units, will be houses or homes. And what are the variables? So one variable is the sales price, and that's quantitative, and the other variable is the size. So there are two things that you're gathering in this case, responses. The responses are usually your answers to the variable. Part C, do college students who pull all-nighters tend to have a lower grade point average than those who do not pull all-nighters? Hint, identify and classify two variables as well. So here, what are the observational units? Again, think of the who, what is giving us data. So in this case, we're gathering data from college students. So the observational units will be the college students. And there are two variables. So one of the variables is GPA, and the other one is whether they pull all-nighters or not. So GPA, what kind of variable is that? Categorical or quantitative? And GPA stands for grade point average. So it's an average, so it will be quantitative. And the other variable is whether they pull all-nighters or not. And what do you think that one is, categorical or quantitative? It will be categorical. Yes or no. Right? Do they pull all-nighters? So the responses are yes, they do, or no, they don't. And so that's categorical. Furthermore, is binary. D, can you predict how far a cat can jump based on factors such as length? So what are the observational units here? So again, observational units is the who is providing you the data, or the what is providing you the data. So in this case, observational units will be the cat, or cats. And variables, can you predict how far a cat can jump based on factors such as length? So the variable is the distance that the cat jumps. And is this categorical or quantitative? Oops. It will be quantitative. And the length of the cat is also quantitative. And E and F, I kind of left the answers there for you. So among heterosexual couples, who is more likely to say I love you first, the man or the woman? Observational units are heterosexual couples, and variables, who says I love you first? And that is categorical and binary. And part F, this one has a lot going on, and so it gets a little bit more involved. But you can read it and notice that the observational units again are the who or the what is providing us information. Who or what are we gathering data from? And so in this case, it's undergraduates at Harvard University. Those are observational units, and the variables are the reason for the rebate, and those are categorical, binary, and the amount they spent, the amount spent from the rebate, and that's a quantitative because it is a measurable amount. In part G, the last one, statistical evidence was used in the murder trial of Kristen Gilbert, a nurse who was accused of killing patients. More than 1,000 8-hour shifts were analyzed. Was the proportion of shifts with a death significantly higher for the shift that Gilbert worked? So based on the question, I already put the answers in there. I did not make those invisible, but oftentimes you think, well, Kristen Gilbert, we're gathering information from her, but it's not really her. We're gathering information about the 8-hour shifts that were analyzed. So more than 1,000 8-hour shifts were analyzed, and then from the shift, data was gathered. So that's why observational units, I keep saying there is the who or the what. So in this case, it's not a who, but a what, is 8-hour shifts. So the observational units are shifts at the hospital. And the variables, so two things we were looking at, whether or not a death occurred during a shift, and whether or not the nurse worked during that shift. We are going to actually do this study later on in the semester, and we're going to look at the entire set of data, and we're going to be able to look at it from the viewpoint of if you are the defense attorney or whether you are the prosecuting attorney. And so we'll be able to see how the data, how we can work the data to our advantage. So that is a preview of coming attractions. I hope you were able to do this on your own with no problem, and I hope that going through this video has helped clarify some questions you may have about observational units. I will soon post a video on Handout P2.